Welcome to Notes from a Drama Watcher, a podcast about East Asian dramas, mostly but not exclusively BL dramas. It's part review, part recap, so there will definitely be spoilers ahead. Let's go! Hi, welcome to episode 8 of Notes from a Drama Watcher. Today it's all about Word of Honor. This is M, and let's get right into it. First gonna do a little recap and then just give my thoughts on the show overall. In this episode, we'll be talking about episodes 34 through 36, and I guess a little bit about episode 37. Episode 34. Episode 34, we have dinner with all the players involved, together with Won Cushing. So that's Chungling, Daewoo, the prince, Uncle Shen, Sao Wei-ning, Gao Shang, everyone, including Zozushi. While at this dinner, Won Cushing is explaining what the plan had been for him to seek his revenge. And everyone is happy except for Zozushi, who of course knows that he has removed the 7 nails. No one else knows this. So they're all sitting and celebrating together while Won Cushing is explaining. They're drinking, and Won Cushing can tell he is upset, but he doesn't know about what. He's assuming that Zozushu is upset about not being told the plan. Zozushu punishes Won Cushing as his, disciple, or as his the second brother, for keeping the truth from him by telling him he has to empty 3 jugs of wine, so he gets drunk. Later, we see Won Cushing come into the room completely inebriated and telling Zozushu how happy he is and how meeting him has changed the trajectory of his life. He had planned to burn the world and himself with it, but now he feels carefree and happy having met someone who accepts him. The whole time he's talking, he is hugging Zozushu, and Zozushu's just listening with tears in his eyes. He smiles when he hears about the impact he made on Won Cushing, but at the same time he looks quite devastated. The rest of the episode involves the preparations in Ghost Valley for the wedding between Sao Wei-ning and Gao Shang. So just a word on the acting in this episode, or specifically Jean Jae-hang's acting in this episode. He definitely deserves kudos for portraying the very conflicted emotions that Zozushu is going through, at this time. He's happy for Won Cushing, of course, that Won Cushing is able to seek his revenge and kind of close that chapter in his life. But on the other hand, he's listening to Won Cushing make these plans for what they can do together while he's drunk and speaking to him. And he knows that there's no way he's going to be able to do these things with Won Cushing because he's dying. And I had thought before, like, oh, he might tell him and that's going to make Won Cushing feel terrible, but actually he doesn't even tell him at all, probably to spare Won Cushing's feelings, although, eventually they would know, right? Because there's no way he can stop what's happening. He's already removed the nails. So the just emotion that Jean Jae-hang is portraying here is, it's wonderful. It's great to see his acting take the forefront in these scenes. Episode 35, we have preparations for the wedding. Zozushu, as I said, still has not told Won Cushing that he has removed the nails. So everyone's in a wonderful mood. They're all happy. They get to celebrate Gao Shang and Sao Wei-ning getting married. As the wedding is about to start, word comes down that members of the Gentle Wind sect, which was Sao Wei-ning's sect, are there to attend the wedding in Ghost Valley. This is all these preparations are taking place in Ghost Valley. Won Cushing is hesitant. He appears to have some reservations, but ultimately decides to let them in because Gao Shang is, telling him about when they took her in and cared for her and treated her well. And Sao Wei-ning is confused, but of course happy that his sect would come to his wedding and apparently forgive him even though he eloped with Gao Shang. But Won Cushing should have gone with his instincts because this was a mistake. Sao Wei-ning's former master tries to convince him to abandon Gao Shang, which Sao Wei-ning refuses to do. He has promised to always be with her, always have her back. And so the former master kills him. He just snaps his neck. It's very sad and horrible because this person is acting like he's a good guy, but look what he did to his disciple. Gao Shang, of course, wants revenge. She begins fighting, no longer to protect Sao Wei-ning. Sao Wei-ning is gone instantly. But Gao Shang is killed trying to get revenge for Sao Wei-ning. Because she's got martial arts skills, but this is the head of the Gentle Wind sect. So there's really no way she can fight him. While all of this ruckus is going on, the people inside, Wan Kushing, Zozashu, everyone inside realizes something's going on because someone has banged one of the drums. And they're like, why are they banging the drums again? And they realize something's going on and they go running out. And so it just turns into a full-on battle between members of the Gentle Wind sect and Ghost Valley inhabitants, including Auntie Lo and Beauty Ghost and everything. So Wan Kushing sees Gao Shang and he, immediately tries to get to her, is able to get to her and holds her in his arms. Of course, he's not going to be able to save her. And it's like a really bittersweet scene at this moment because she's still calling him master. She's used to doing that. And he tells her, call me brother. And so for the first and last time while she's alive, she calls him brother. And she asks him to kill the leader of the Gentle Wind sect for her because she's not going to be able to do it. And it's so sad as she's saying goodbye to him. She's like, I'm not going to be able to take care of you anymore. Because that's always her thing. She always wants to care for Wan Kushing the same way he always wants to care for her. The former master of the Gentle Wind sect, who in his own mind maybe thinks he's a good guy, but he's really not, is there trying to get pieces of the glazed armor, which Wan Kushing doesn't have. And in the meantime, while all this is going on, Scorpion King is watching. He has his own ambitions, right? And so he releases the drugmen into the fighting, and this causes even more confusion. So now we've got the drugmen just attacking everyone in sight, members of the Gentle Wind sect, Ghost Valley inhabitants, just everyone. And despite all this confusion going on, Wan Kushing does not waver from his goal in this moment. His goal in this moment is to kill the leader of the Gentle Wind sect like Ashang asked him to. Not just because he wants his own revenge, but he wants to fulfill Ashang's last wish. So he just is barreling through drugmen on his way to get to the leader of the Gentle Wind sect. He fights him. He is severely injured in the fight. And Scorpion King shows up wanting glazed armor, whatever, from Wan Kushing. Wan Kushing is kind of like, whatever, because at this time he's dying, really. He's been injured in the fight. He doesn't think he's going to make it. And Zozashu comes to his aid, doesn't fight for him, but gets Scorpion King to back off. He's got his sword on Scorpion King's neck. So Scorpion King has no choice but to back off. And he's like, you can do whatever, but let me take Wan Kushing back with me, which Scorpion King allows so he doesn't get killed. At the end of this, or towards the end of this episode, Dawu, just with the way that Zozashu is acting, realizes that something's wrong and realizes that Zozashu has removed the 7 nails. But despite this, Zozashu is going to go on one last mission. He's trying to get to the armory because all these other people are also trying to get to the armory. They want what they think is the treasure inside the armory. So his one last mission is to stop Scorpion King and allies from entering the armory. And he asks Prince Chi to look after Lao Wang and Chengling, who he calls his family. He asks them to look after his family because he knows he's probably not coming back. In episode 36, well, before that, he's basically also having to leave Chengling there and telling him to watch out for Lao Wen, right? Because he knows if Lao Wen wakes up, the first thing he's going to do is try to go after Zozashu. And he's really in no condition to do that. And poor Chengling has had so much loss. He's lost his parents. He has these new people in his life who he's calling them Master and Uncle Master, but Marshall Uncle. But, it's really, he views them as his guardians and parents as well. And he's losing them. He's had the highs and lows of thinking they were going to be able to save Zozashu because Dawu had thought he'd be able to save them. And then now to discover that he's going to lose them anyway, since Zozashu has removed the nails. And there's no way of knowing what's going on with Wan Kushing, whether he's going to wake up again or not. And even if he does wake up, what's going to happen with him. So episode 36, almost all parties are converging onto the armory to try to gain entry, including Zozashu. Wan Kushing is still unconscious from the events of episode 35. And Zozashu has said his goodbyes to Chengling, making him promise not to tell Wan Kushing where he's gone. When he arrives, all the players are stalled outside because after placing the piece of the glazed armor together, they still cannot open the door because the key they try to use to open it is actually a fake. After an exchange of words between Zozashu and Scorpion King, after Zozashu kills the current leader of Sword of Heaven, an avalanche occurs, and I still can't figure out if it was just a random avalanche or, as we will see in a minute or two, Wan Kushing comes jumping down from the sky. So I'm not sure if he caused the avalanche or not. In any case, the avalanche is occurring. Everyone's running for their lives, except for Zozashu, who is standing there preparing to die. Wan Kushing appears and grabs the hairpin from Zozashu's hair. And just as I mentioned in a previous podcast, and as I suspected, that hairpin actually turns out to be the key to the armory. And Zozashu and Wan Kushing jump inside right as the door is completely covered in snow. And like I said, I was almost 100% sure that that hairpin was the key because Wan Kushing has had that his entire life. And in terms of the cinematography, whenever they were showing Wan Kushing as a child, they were making sure that they were getting that hairpin in the screen. So it was obviously very important. It was foreshadowing. After they're inside of the armory, I actually found this pretty funny that Wan Kushing is mad. He's upset as Zozashu, that Zozashu had left him behind. And usually it's Wan Kushing who's kind of in the doghouse, but here it's clearly Zozashu who's in the doghouse. And he knows it because he can barely look in Wan Kushing's eyes as Wan Kushing is like, you know, what were you thinking? You left me. If I hadn't followed them, I wouldn't have not known where to go. And Zozashu's just kind of like looking down in shame, you know? So finally, after 36 episodes, it's Zozashu in the doghouse. I actually rewatched that a number of times, not just to see Wan Kushing flying through the air and grabbing the hairpin, but also just that scene between Wan Kushing and Zozashu, and Wan Kushing is giving him what for. Wan Kushing explains that Ye Bai actually woke him up and saved him, and by following Scorpion King, Wan Kushing was able to get to the armory and arrive, you know, just in time. And they explore the armory, and they discover what the treasure is, and it's something that it's not what everyone thinks it is. And it's a very valuable treasure, but it's not what all of these people think it is. And they sit down to perform the ritual, a ritual that will save Zozashu's life. But Wan Kushing is keeping yet another secret. And the other secret is that he will probably die from this ritual trying to save Zozashu, because the ritual destroys all the meridian of the person giving, you know, energy to the person that they are trying to save. Episode 36, what appears to be the final episode, ends with Wan Kushing collapsing. His hair has gone white and he's collapsed after having saved Zozashu. So if you like that ending, you can end there. You can also try to look around for episode 37 on the internet. Yoku, I believe, still has episode 37 behind a paywall. If you have Viki Pass, then you'll be able to see it on Viki. And if not, quite honestly, just doing a search into YouTube, people have put it on YouTube. On Twitter, people have put clips from episode 37. Episode 37, we see, it's years and years later, actually, because we see Chunling as an adult talking about what happened in the armory to these two, you know, warriors. And we see Wan Kushing and Zozashu talking, fighting / flirting, and they're alive. They're both alive. They look happy. Wan Kushing still has his white hair, but they appear to be immortal now, and they're just going to spend the rest of their immortality with each other, with their soulmates, fighting and flirting. So I thought it was a very fit ending. I like happy endings, so I liked that they did episode 37. Apparently they had to do it kind of separately because since it is a BL for the censors, you're really not allowed to have them have their, you know, happily ever after. So they included it in a separate episode as kind of like a bonus clip kind of thing. The beginning of episode 37 are just flashback scenes and stuff like that. And then it gets to the later story, Chunling and his adult, and what happens with Wan Kushing and Zozashu. You don't actually see, it is years later, so you don't actually see how it is that Wan Kushing has survived. Maybe he was not really going to die in the first place. That was just for dramatic effect. Or maybe somehow Zozashu saves him. Or maybe Ye Bai Yi appeared out of nowhere and saved him. We don't know. I've actually seen some very interesting fan fiction coming out where Ye Bai Yi is the one who is able to, he gets to the armory and he sacrifices himself and his own immortality to save Wan Kushing. But I guess we'll never really know. So my final thoughts. I'll talk a little bit about the downsides first. The downside to this show is definitely the lack of budget. It's clear that they are reusing the sets fairly often. We see them walking through the same woods fairly often, walking around the same lake. Ghost Valley, the location of the armory, Wan Kushing's confrontation with second uncle, those are all clearly on the same set, just decorated differently. Also, I can't believe I'm about to say this because I usually complain about the length of C-dramas, but this show definitely needed to be longer. The last few episodes of the series appear to be rushed as they wrapped up the story. The whole scene in episode 34 where they're all having dinner together and Wan Kushing is explaining how everything went down, about how he tricked everyone and pretended to be dead, etc. This was all clearly a way for them to explain all of the maneuvering to the audience without having to show us. Because by showing us all of these things, it probably would have added another episode or two to the show. And they didn't have enough money for that. Even what we got, thank goodness for Wo Long Nuts. I don't know if it's for sale anywhere here in the US, but maybe if I saw it somewhere, I'd buy a bag just to thank them for investing money into the show and allowing it to be made and continued. Even if we didn't get all the episodes we wanted, we got 36 great episodes. I've talked a little bit about downsides. Let me talk about the upsides. Everything else. The scriptwriter taking care to make this the BL instead of copping out and making it a bromance. I've seen complaints as far as directing that there was not enough martial arts and too much twirling around, but I actually didn't have a problem with this because I didn't view this as a strictly martial arts show. To me, it was more about found family and relationships, about broken people putting themselves back together, about change. Martial arts was secondary to me. Gao Shang's character was a delight. I've heard or read online, due to COVID, that some of the actors change. The actor who played Scorpion King was the original Wan Kushing, but he gave that up to be Scorpion King. He thought it was a better fit. I agree. Scorpion King was awesome. Gong Joon and Zhang Jiehan were brought in to be on the show. The actress who played Gao Shang was in on the project originally and stayed on despite the delays and COVID and everything else. She stayed on with the show, even though apparently she was I haven't seen her in anything else, but she was in a really famous movie and probably would have had a pick of other projects, but she decided to, honor her commitment to Word of Honor. And I have no idea if this is true, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's because she read the script and saw what a kick-butt character Gao Shang was and decided to stick with this just so she could play this character. Because unfortunately, I've said this before, sometimes the way the female characters on C-dramas, it needs some work. But Gao Shang was an awesome character and probably, this actress probably was like, I really want to play this person. Now for Zhang Jiehan and Gong Joon, just a few words about them. I mean, what more can I say? I've said a lot in all these podcasts, but what more can I say? The acting here was top-notch, and I really think that they actually brought out the best in each other. I was not familiar with Zhang Jiehan before this, but I have been watching some of his previous work just to get a feel for him in other projects, as I've seen him on Word of Honor. His acting was fine. I'm not going to say it was bad. Actually, the things I've seen him in, Rio Pavilion, I couldn't finish, and it was not him. It was the female character. Unfortunately, again, it's sometimes the female characters are written. It's something that needs to be worked on for C-dramas. His acting was fine, but in all honesty, the best chemistry I've seen him have so far has been with Gong Joon. Gong Joon has also had the chance to really spread his acting chops here, having the opportunity to play a morally complex character instead of that same cold type of character that he seems to have been pigeonholed in up until now. I think this series has opened people's eyes to what both of these actors can do. Hopefully it's given Gong Joon confidence as a less experienced actor and been a relief to Zhang Jiehan to receive this acknowledgement from people after a decade in the industry. I don't know if he has any plans whatsoever to direct, but from what I've been reading, a lot of the scenes that people loved from the show were made through suggestions from from Zhang Jiehan about how they should be filmed or acted or whatever. So maybe it's something he's interested in the future. I don't know. Or maybe he doesn't want to. Maybe he just wants to stay to acting. I don't know. But, if he's interested in directing, I think people will listen. As of the recording of this podcast, the Word of Honor concert has passed. And I didn't watch the concert, but I got to see clips online, including one where in an emotional moment, Zhang Jiehan calls himself Gongjun's Gaga. I'm probably pronouncing it terribly, but it means older brother. And he tells him he will be there for him in the future if he needs him. It was an incredibly sweet moment, and I love that it's further evidence to me that, and watching all the behind the scenes that I've seen, there's mutual respect between these two actors who came into a project that had no money and no expectations, and they came out of it having been part of something great, in large parts to their efforts and also the efforts of the supporting cast and the staff that worked on the show. So that's it. Great show. Definitely something that I would rewatch. And, it's clear that I love this show. I'll definitely rewatch it while I wait for other Chinese BLs to come out, because some of the political stuff, I have to say, was a lot. Some of the political stuff I want to go over again. And I feel like I've even seen certain episodes where I'm like, oh, I didn't see that the first time, and I'll catch something new when I see it again. So I want to rewatch this show as a whole. And, we're waiting for other Chinese BLs to come out. I think watching Avenue X's channel, I think she was saying probably nothing's coming out till July. But whatever else does come out, they are going to have some pretty big shoes to fill after the success of Word of Honor. It's pressure. I'm not sure if I envy those other projects. And they probably all are going to be dealing with a bigger budget than Word of Honor had. So then it's going to be like, well, Word of Honor didn't have a lot of money and they were still able to do this. What about you? But this shows you don't need a tremendous budget. Money is good. I'm not going to lie, money's good. But you don't need a tremendous budget if you've got great acting, good directing, and good storytelling. Word of Honor is proof of that. But anyway, that's it. That's my ramble. Those are my thoughts. If you want to reach out to me, you can find me on Twitter at DramaWatcher6 or through email at DramaWatcherNotes@gmail.com. Thanks, everyone. Stay safe.